Well, hello there. Catherine Langman here, back again with another episode of the Productpreneur Success podcast. So, hands up if this year has been a little bit of a tough one for you. I know it has been for so many, and many of us are still going through some tricky times, of course. But today, I want to bring you a story of triumph over adversity. Always the best kind of stories, I reckon. So today I'm actually welcoming back to the show my beautiful friend and client, Christy Rigby, owner of Boutique Brands and Baby Aiders Australia. And Christy's someone that I have worked with now over many years and helped her to grow her business from a fledgling startup to a seven-figure e-commerce brand, which is an incredible, exciting success story that I think we should all take inspiration from. But this year has really thrown some hard stuff at Christy that almost had her business to the wall. And it's been a really challenging time, but her quick thinking and her smart decisions, as well as her approach over the last few months, has, been able to see her pull out of a really tough experience and get back to thriving and growing again. And, whilst I'm sure she wouldn't say everything is sunshine and roses and absolutely perfect now, she is thriving and growing again. So I really want to invite you to pull up a few, maybe pour yourself a cuppa as well, and sit down with me and listen to Christy share this really inspirational story with you. So without further ado, let's welcome Christy back to the show. Welcome back to the show, Christy. So good to have you here again.
Thank you.
So just to kick us off, for those of our listeners who maybe don't know you yet, just give us the quick intro. Who are you, your business, what do you sell?
Well, so Christy Rigby, and I work together with my husband, John. We've been working together for 5 years, I think it is. We worked out the other day that John's been working in the business as well. We have a company called Boutique Brands Australia Proprietary Limited. And we import and distribute beautiful baby and kids brands within Australia and also New Zealand. And probably the brand that you'll know the best, if you know one of our brands, is Baby Aiders. We also have the brushies. We've been distributing Burrow and Bee in Australia, and over time we've done work with different brands, and we've done some pick and pack for some other brands and all of those kinds of things. So that's us. I never cease to amaze myself in new things that I can come up with to do. But we'll get onto that later, shall we?
We will. And just to be clear, I mean, you've been in business for a lot longer than that. It's only that your husband joined you 5 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. So I started my first online business, 12 and a half years ago. Catherine and I were just talking about how long we've known each other. And our girls are 12, aren't they, Kath? So like we must have known each other for like almost 12 years, because I remember having a tiny little baby when I met you at a trade show down in Melbourne one time. Yeah. And I don't know if Isabella would. Oh no, Isabella might have been around already. So it must be at least 12. It must be about 12 years. We've been around the trap. So I started my first online store when Ella was born. Yeah. And then I grew that, but then I actually bought one of my suppliers. So Boutique Brands, I was buying products from Boutique Brands. And so then when the owner needed to sell, a portion of her business, we bought Boutique Brands from her. And we've been running that for as long as my youngest child, almost as long as my youngest child's been around. So that'd be 8, almost 9 years now. So yes, fun and games. 8 years, 8.5 years, I think, with Boutique Brands. So yeah. E-commerce for the last 12 years. There you go.
Oh, we're like dinosaurs in the e-commerce.
I know.
Just about.
I remember when you could post on Facebook and all of your likers would see it. I was like, this is awesome. And like you didn't have to pay anyone for it and all of that kind of stuff. And, I remember when people who started maybe 7 years ago were like, I'm going to have to start paying for people to see my Instagram posts. And I'm like, babe, I've been there. I was there with Facebook when it happened initially. We were getting great free marketing from those platforms, but it always happens. Pay to play comes at some point in time with every platform. So, what can you do?
What can you do? So I don't know if I actually remember the answer to this question. I'm sure we've spoken about it before, but when you think back to starting that first business, like what was
Mm.
the motivation for you to start that
Oh,
business?
yeah, listen, I've kind of jimmied backwards and forwards in my career before kids, jimmied backwards and forwards between the community sector and also, I come from I have a marketing degree, marketing and accounting degree. And I was working just before I had Ella, I had been working in a marketing role, and I was like, well, maybe I can take some of these online marketing skills that I've been learning and apply them to an online store and make an income for my family. So what I mean, that's the
Trying to
thing,
be
like,
flexible at home, right? Because you're planning.
yeah, like wanting to be around my kids and flexible for my kids over time. I had been working in the community sector as well, and that was quite heavy going in terms of the emotional resources required. And so I just wanted to be able to do something that didn't require quite so many emotional resources from me at that stage, so that I could be present for my kids.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I'm an itchy feet kind of person. Like, I absolutely love mums who are stay-at-home mums who give their kids all this beautiful focused attention and do craft activities with them and all the rest of it. And I have to say that I just found that stuff so
It's not you.
and it's like because this little ticker, just my brain just goes all the time. And so, like, for me, having my business that I was building, while I had small kids, was really kind of like a lifesaver, like a mental health saver in lots of ways. And I know a lot of people feel a bit guilty about, like, oh, I could have given all of that time to my kids, but the reality is I probably wouldn't have, because I wouldn't have been in a great headspace to relate to them, because I really needed something to do with my brain. So that was like, I think that was that we wanted it to generate an income, but we also wanted to I needed something to do with my brain. Having said that, like, I don't know if you've been in business any length of times, especially a product-based business, you'll know that the income doesn't come straight away.
No, it goes up sometimes, doesn't it?
No, exactly right. Like, you have to, a lot of the time you're investing that money back into stock and into marketing, for a number of years while you're building your business. And so, and that was fine for us, because we had planned, for living on one income. And so that was a great period of time for us to be building our business, because, we didn't need to draw an income from it. And now we're set up in a position where it's actually, now it's now the sole income generation source for our family, which is fantastic. But it takes 12 years to become an overnight success, so it can take a little while. It can take a little while to build your business before you start generating a half decent income for yourself. And sometimes I think of I was thinking of putting on a particular role a few years ago, and I was like, if I pay them that amount of money, which is what I need in order to attract them, I'm going to be paying them more than I pay myself. But that's just because we're investing in the business, and we will end up with the asset of a business, a saleable asset, in the future. So the things you sacrifice for a business usually, have a payoff to them. So sorry. No. I just, don't get me rolling. I'll roll in whatever direction my head goes in.
Let's focus on boutique brands, and whether there's a few components to boutique brands. Obviously, Baby Aiders is one of the bigger parts of it. But when we think about that whole business, what would you say would be maybe one or two things you did earlier in the business journey that really kind of helped push to new revenue levels? Kind of accelerated the growth.
Yeah, well, listen, like, when we took on boutique brands, it had a number of products in it, and it was primarily a wholesale. It was primarily a wholesale business. Like, we were importing and then we were selling direct to retailers, and we still really enjoy the relationship that we have with our retailers these days, and it's a big part of our business. But one thing we did, think we just probably about 7 or 8 years ago, is when I started working with you with some business coaching, we actually made a decision to pull Baby Aiders a big like multi-brand website for selling direct to consumer, and we decided to make a big deal out of Babyators. That was the brand that was selling the best out of all the ones that we had on board at the time. And so we decided to pull that out, give it its own standalone website, and give it its own, attention in terms of building the brand awareness. And it's interesting, when we did that, some of our retailers at the time, because you remember this is 7 years ago, when brands were only just starting to sell direct to the public online, and some of them were like, oh, you're going to be competing with us. But what we actually found is the more marketing that we did on the brand, the more interest that was generated for the brand overall, and actually stockists then started getting more requests for Babyators than they'd had before we were marketing direct to the public.
Both sides, doesn't it? The e-commerce.
It lifts both sides when, because, as a retailer wants to build their store, build their brand, build their sales, and they will sell whatever the customers, need, and you build a range that suit your customers. So you're not focused on building someone else's brand for them, because that's not your job. My job as a brand owner is to build the brand so that it supports not just my sales, but the sales of all of our retailers as well. So that I think that was one of the things. I think that was the big game changer for us, was pulling out the best selling brand and actually making a really big deal out of it.
I think that 12 months after you did that went, the difference in revenue from the start of the year to the end of the year was pretty astronomical from memory. That definitely did make a big difference. And maybe a little bit later in the business journey, was there, anything else that you feel like really contributed to maybe pulling out of a plateau, or, driving you to new levels?
A few years ago, like, once again, it usually happens after a conversation with you at some stage. That's why coaching is so important, isn't it? I remember you telling me, I reckon you can go to 7 figures, and I'm like, what? And I'm like looking at my figures, going, I don't know how we're going to get there. And you're like, I reckon you can go there. And so you kind of put that thought in my head, and I, okay, well, let's give it a go. And so we threw a lot of resources into that. And by the end of 2020, we'd managed to hit, the 7-figure mark just from our online sales.
So setting the big goal and having the vision lifted a little bit, maybe.
The vision lifted, I think, because we had all the building blocks in place. So, we had developed that, brand website. We had been, working over the years to build, email automations, and to start building data, in terms of Facebook ads and Google ads, of what was working and what wasn't working. And we had the data of what products were selling and what products weren't selling, and all of those kinds of things. After we'd done all of that kind of experimentation, we had all the data that we needed in order to kind of go, okay, what are the things that are going to make me more money? And we were going to start doing more of those things and less of everything else that we were doing. So that was probably the thing, was like, we'd been around for long enough to know what we were doing, have a whole lot of the building blocks in place, and then at that point in time we could just really kind of go, okay, well, now is the time that we're going to just invest, more money into marketing, turn the tap on, turn the tap up, and just let more flow in the top of the funnel that we had, which, kind of, we had the confidence to do that. And also like
the fulfillment really well sorted. And I would say that getting John involved to manage the warehouse and fulfillment side of things was also another big accelerating factor for you guys.
Yeah, and listen, something we did what we needed to do in order to make that happen, and sometimes that's what you do as you're growing the business. So we recognized that the business was going to plateau if it was just me trying to work around kids and John was still working full time and all of those kinds of things. So we'd had bits and pieces of staff here and there, but it did make a big difference the year that we were able to bring John home and he was able to pack, and so I was able to focus on the marketing side of things probably was another big growth factor. We did a couple of things in order to make that work, because Baby Aiders is a very seasonal product. There is a definite peak in our sales, and then there's a definite low season every single year. We have to watch our budget all the way across the middle of the year, and then we have to make enough profit in the high season in order to carry us through the low season the following year. And so we started supporting some other Australian brands by doing fulfillment for them, and that served us from the perspective of that brought in a little bit of extra income, so that we were able to, pay the rent and cover John's wages and, feed the kids and all of those kinds of things in the low season.
Yeah.
And then we just made a little bit of a bumper crop in the high season to try to carry us through the low season as well. So, yeah.
No, super. And of course, it's not all about, having those moments where you have a great strategy or an input that accelerates the growth. There's downs as well as ups and challenges, and this definitely has been a challenging year for you guys. So tell us a little bit about that, because it's, it is useful for other people to know that, the big success stories aren't always sunshine and roses.
No, that's right. Listen, last year in July, we moved into a beautiful newly freshly built warehouse to house all of our products and all of the beautiful products that we were helping to pack for other brands. And in February of 2022, earlier this year, on the last night of February, there ended up being 1.1 meters of water inside of our warehouse, because the floods from the local area and the water inundation, the stormwater inundation that was coming down from the sky and draining off through our property and all of those kinds of things had, kind of culminated in, water flowing into our warehouse. And so we had a whole heap of damage, a whole heap of, just stock absolutely destroyed. We had a big stinking mess to clean up. I don't know if you remember this, Kath, but I remember sending you a message that night saying our business is underwater, and you're like, oh, what, have you talked to your accountant? Have they said you're like going backwards? And I'm like, no,
I hadn't seen the news. I had no idea what was going on.
Our business is literally underwater.
Oh, that was so mad.
And like, because I'd been on my CCTV and I'd actually seen the water like exploding into our warehouse, and my kayak that was sitting in the warehouse had like floated off somewhere else, and so it wasn't in front of the CCTV anymore because it had floated away. It actually ended up like 1.5 meters off the ground in between two shelves by the time we came back into the office. It was funny if it wasn't so tragic. It makes for a great photo these days. It's a bit of color in with the brown.
Yes.
So we lost a heck of a lot of stock in that process, and obviously, with flooding comes all kinds of terminology when you're talking to insurance companies, and we believe we had a whole lot of stormwater inundation. They say it's all flooding, and we say it's a bit of both, and we're still having that discussion. So other than a few government grants, that was a pretty big setback for the business. But not only the dollar value of what we lost, but we lost a whole lot of operational time, and to be honest, it was actually quite traumatic. And so we actually had 2 staff members who'd been dehomed through the flooding, and so that was quite stressful for them too. And so we were all wandering around with our PTSD on for a good part of this year. And I think I was just talking to Tamika this morning, we're probably all only just coming out of it, and but still recognizing things that were lost earlier this year that are still quite impacting us. Like Tamika was saying that she just bought beautiful Christmas decorations last year, and she had them stored in the house that was flooded in the storms. And so like people are like, oh, aren't you over the storms yet? Like it's like 7 months later, and I'm like,
that comes
I kind of yes, kind of no. Like I'm not living in the everyday PTSD of it anymore, but it's still having an impact on us and on our business. And
yeah, that's right.
And yeah, we also had the challenge of having a mental health diagnosis in our family. It was onset this year.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as a mum, that's challenging. That's, you know, there's a lot of work involved in what this looks like. There's also, you know, it's also quite overwhelming emotionally and all of those kinds of things. So on top of, you know, trying to recover a business, you know, from a flood, you're dealing with, you know, like overwhelmed
Other really big situations.
other big situations. And so, you know, it's been a year of a lot of big stuff for us. So we just rolling with the punches of all of those kinds of things. And you know, so stuff happens in business and stuff happens in life, and it impacts on your business to move. It impacts on your ability to move your business forward.
It does. But, you know, obviously I'm from a far interstate, but, you know, I've known you for so many years, and I would honestly say that what you've been through this year, you know, so many people would have just shut up shop and walked away because it was so hard. But really we're able to be quite quick thinking in the moments, and that, you know, you took some quick decisions that I think really did help you preserve what you have and helped you grow out of it. You know, it's still, there's work to be done, of course, but you know, talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, listen, like I suppose we always come from the perspective that all things can be worked for the good. I don't believe things happen for a reason. I think that's a fatalist concept to have. But I think bad stuff happens because we live in a world where bad stuff happens, and there's no getting around some of it. So, you know, if you live in this life, you're going to have bad stuff happen to you, good, bad, or, you know, perfect angel. You know, bad things are going to happen to you, and so, you know, but we can draw a line in the sand and we can step forward from that. So yeah, we had a massive amount of water in our warehouse, but we also had hundreds of people from our community that showed up and helped us wash product, wash out our, you know, gurney out our warehouse, which is a massive job. And like literally had people just sitting in the car park outside, well, what I can see outside of my window here under marquees, like washing and drying products and having great little chit chats. And so we just had the community really show up, and that was just a real blessing just to see kindness in action. But in terms of the business, it was quite interesting because the night that I saw the water flowing into the business, I was like, right, okay, so like we were already in a tricky financial position, you know, from cash flow because of, you know, COVID. We were overstocked and a bunch of other things, and like
about to come into the low season.
So I'm like, we're cooked. And I'm like, we're done. Like I was emailing a friend saying, you know, have you got that number of that, you know, liquidator that we know? And I was like, okay, if I could save one part of my business, what would it be? Like, what is the thing that, you know, I could save? And it really was, you know, our baby aiders have always been, you know, such a fantastic product to have, and we're able to run it from quite a small space, and our team are really, you know, John and I, you know, can run it together by ourselves without team if we really need, because we've done that before. And so what we did is we just we worked, you know, really hard just to reduce our overheads, because we wanted to honor, you know, all of our suppliers. We didn't want to not be paying people. We did have to kind of say to people along the way, hey, listen, can you wait for that payment? Because, you know, we're not going to be able to make it. We had stock that had to be replaced, and, you know, our suppliers were very gracious, but we didn't want to be just splashing cash around and not being able to pay everybody. And so we had to decide pretty quickly what we were going to spend our finite resources, including time, on. And unfortunately, that meant that we identified an area of our business that we needed to sell. And the pick and pack that had served us so beautifully in the early days when John came home from work, we recognized that was something that we couldn't continue with at this point in time. And so we said, let's keep all the highest margin parts of our business and reduce all the overheads that we can. And basically, what is it that makes us money? What is it that makes us money, and what is it that costs us time? And we needed to balance everything up. So I almost feel like it's it's been the great reset for us, like in terms of, we've been in business for 12 years now, and I love new things. So I take things. I love supporting other people. I love supporting other businesses. I love getting involved in helping them out and all of those kinds of things. And so I was there, and we were like, okay, we've just built this massive conglomeration of a whole lot of different services and products and all of those kinds of things. But now it's time just to carve out, okay, what is making us money, and do more of that.
You just really needed to consolidate and concentrate and focus. And it really, it did shift the needle. I mean, I know it was a bloody hard few months there, but it really, it set your business back up to be growing and thriving again, which you're doing. So.
And there were some hard conversations in that, like, we had beautiful clients who we loved, and we still love, who we were packing for, and we had to have hard conversations with them and say, hey, listen, we need to change our structure. Would you rent from us, and contract people to come and pack for you? Or would you do, we threw out a bunch of ideas, and then in the end we had to kind of say, listen, we can't do pick and pack anymore. You're going to have to find another provider. And that was sad. It felt like a breakup, really. It was had to go through a bit of a grieving process over that, because it wasn't a breakup that I wanted, but it was, it was in everybody's best interest to move on from that. So, that was challenging decisions to make and challenging conversations that had to be had. But I think one of the things in that, like every day was quite overwhelming. Every day post the flood this year, I think, has been quite overwhelming. And the thing that I always come back to is, what is the one thing that I need to do today that is going to move my business forward? And I have to make sure that one thing gets done. So it's about taking the priorities of, hey, I'd really like to be doing this, and I'd really like to be doing that. And, oh, isn't that a good idea? And all of the things that my head comes up with all the time. And it's sit down and do the defined one thing that is going to move my business forward today. And I have to say, I reckon that's something that I'm going to take into the rest of my business life. Is looking at my list of things that I have to do today and go, is that the thing that's going to move my business forward today? Or should I be prioritizing something else? And my whole priority list looks at what is going to get me revenue. What is gonna help me achieve my goals, and then everything else either gets left to the end of the list when it can be done, or delegated to a staff member, if I have one, or just not done. So we had to do that out of necessity, and now probably into the future I'll do that by choice.
Have you ever read the book called The One Thing?
No,
I reckon you'd enjoy that one, and listeners to this show as well. If you resonate with what Christy just said there, it is a great book by Gary Keller, I think it is. I read it last year, so and that's really the entire concept that he talks about. So
it's such a simple concept, but but there's so much noise in our world, particularly as business owners, and a lot of us are parents, juggling parenting and life and kids and all of it. There's a lot of competing demands. And so it's such a simple concept, but it's such a hard one to execute sometimes. Just the most important thing, just the thing that's going to move our business forward today, just the thing that's going to make me money today.
And then the compound interest on that one thing every day over the 365 days is going to make an enormous difference.
If I change my email, if I change my email marketing automation and tweak that so that it's actually going to make me a little bit more money, that is going to pay me dividends for years as well. So there's some stuff that helps you increase your revenue long term, and some stuff that's just a great promotion that you managed to get a revenue generation that move you forward. But then that it works, and so then you can repeat that and do that again. And so
and so would you say, I mean, obviously I'm on the outer looking in, but would you agree that those quick thinking actions and that singular focus through the overwhelm has really had the impact that you want, back to growth? The business is solid now, you can go back to growth and look to the future?
Yeah, listen, I recently was speaking to someone who'd actually been through burnout, like actual physical burnout. And I recognized that, this year had the potential to see me in that boat.
Yeah. Mm.
The level of pressure that was involved in the work that needed to be done for us to recover from the flood, as well as things going on in our personal life, really could have seen me sitting there in the full burnout mode, and of not being able to move forward, of not
Yeah.
being able to think well, and be well and be present for people and all of those kinds of things. And I had to do a whole lot of nothing at different times this year. I had to work hard at doing the things that needed to be done. And then on the weekends, I had to do a whole lot of nothing in order to make sure that I was going to survive this event, because the only way my business survived this event was if I survived this event. Because like you said before, like there's other people that would have shut up shop and thrown things out, or other people who would have had to shut up shop because they just couldn't get the brain power to move forward, because our bodies can only cope with a certain amount of stress. And I'm incredibly grateful, for the community that showed up, for the faith of my faith community, that I'm part of, and as well, just some good old fashioned internal self-care and wisdom around that, just to make sure that that I was okay, so that and not just so that my business would be okay, but my business was like what did survive because I survived.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I am very happy.
Did I answer your question? I'm kind of
just yes, in a roundabout way. And you probably also asked my next question, which was going to be, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who might want to try and, take preemptive action to inoculate themselves from a crisis situation?
yeah, and it,
it's a tough one, isn't it?
it is a tough one. I'd definitely say, because you can never predict.
No.
You can never predict what's going to happen in life. Like we didn't know COVID was going to happen. We didn't know what impacts that COVID was going to have on sales. We didn't know what impacts COVID was going to have on sales this year. Like it's completely changed the landscape of sales this year. And we didn't know about the supply chain issues that we would have. And we didn't know about the flood. So there's a whole lot of things that are completely outside of your control. So as a business owner, like I'm somebody who likes to be in control. Most of us are, most entrepreneurs are. We like to be in control, able to, work things out so we can move forward. We're decision makers, we're tough, we, get in there, we get it done, and we move things forward. And there's some situations that are completely outside of our control. It's not, and I think the thing to remember, it's not our fault. We didn't make a mistake. We're not bad people because, we're falling behind in making payments to suppliers. It's the fact of life is that business, like in lots of ways, there's some areas where you're making a lot of assumptions, and sometimes the assumptions don't, move forward, but we have to risk in order to move forward in business. And we have to make calculated risks. Yes. We have to do our due diligence. Yes. But sometimes stuff that we never expected to happen happens, and we have to go, you know what? Let's not throw the blame game around here. Let's just pick up, draw a line in the sand, and let's move forward. Because like if I stay there wondering what it was that caught, whose fault it is, and how we could have, not been in this situation, or the stupid insurance company because they didn't come to the party or whatever, and I spent all my time worrying about all of that stuff, I would not have the energy to pick myself up and move my business forward.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really the thing is be kind to yourself, both emotionally and physically, if you end up in a difficult situation. And then basically look through, well, what's making me money and what's not making me money, And I want to do more of the stuff that's making me money and less of the stuff that isn't, because there's always something that you can carve out of your business that isn't making you money. It's just, sometimes it's a pet project. Sometimes it's something you think is moving you forward, but really it's just like a vanity metrics. And you got to look at what's making you money, what's not making you money. And you've got to decide that's what you're going to do. So
try and focus on that one thing, and then just not let all the noise get in the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so good. I'm going to switch tack slightly for some final 3 rapid fire questions if you're up for it.
Great. Awesome.
So what advice would you give yourself back when you were in startup mode? And, this is, you back when you had baby Ella and you were starting your first.
And listen, e-commerce is different now than it was 12 years ago. And so probably I'd need to speak to myself if I was starting a business, right this very minute with a little baby in tow. And that would really be, take the time to build the foundations in your business that you need. It won't be as easy as you think it's going to be, and that it's okay not to see results, immediately. That you need to take time to, invest in time and energy to invest in your business. You need to spend some money on marketing. So don't just, if you've got a budget for setting up your business, don't put all the money into stock, because you're actually going to need some money to help you sell the stock that you got. I was like, when I started my business, I was like, I've got $5,000. I'm going to, and then when I buy that $5,000 worth of stuff, I'm going to turn it into 10 grand. And I'm like, dude, I totally forgot the component that I got to work out how I actually sell the product. Like, there's so much noise in the marketplace, particularly these days, so many stores, so many people competing for everybody's attention, that, if you build it, they will come doesn't work. You can't just build a website and expect that people will come and buy. You have to have a strategy for getting to people. And don't worry if it doesn't happen straight away. Like, there's there's momentum that builds over the time that you get better as a business owner. Because I often say to people that in order to grow your business, you have to become the business owner that your business needs you to be to go to the next level. And oftentimes we're the thing that's in our way. And so we need to learn something in order to grow. So businesses take a while to build momentum. You build building blocks, and you have to build, and then you get a momentum that that you can push along. It's like a freight train. It takes a while to get it. If you were pushing a freight train, it would take you a while to get it moving, but once it's in motion, it doesn't take as much effort to get it moving faster and faster and faster. So be kind to yourself, and have a long-term expectation rather than short-term expectation. I've heard people say, I want to just turn my I want to leave my full-time job and replace my income with my small business's income. And I say, well, sometimes you actually need to invest for a period of time, like reinvest what your business is earning into building the business for a period of time. Reinvestment in order to build the momentum that you need for the long term.
Get those foundations right before you can expect that kind of wage output.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, done is better than perfect. So you don't have to wait until everything's perfect. You can launch something that's a little bit imperfect and all of the rest of it, and then tweak it over time. Because for some of us, like me, I would never launch it because it's not perfect yet. And so sometimes it's like, okay, done is better than perfect. Get it out there and then tweak it as you go. Is it probably my other thing that I would say to people? Let the momentum build.
Very important, lesson for all of us to learn, that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So along the way, what would you say has been one of the best decisions that you've made in your business? I know that's always a hard thing to say. What's one?
I had, I'll be completely honest. I think some of the best decisions that I have actually made is to invest in myself. Because, like I said before, you have to build a business owner to build a business. And so I often thought I couldn't afford coaching, or I couldn't afford, the courses that I wanted or whatever else. But sometimes it's just that one thought that someone gives you about your business that really makes it project off to the next level. And so I think one of the best decisions that I made, obviously, was to, is to invest into coaching. So for those that don't know, Catherine has been my marketing coach for the last 7 years. We flipped that around. I've done some coaching for your clients at times, but Catherine's always been my marketing coach. And John and I also have another coach who coaches us as a couple around operations and also vision and keeping our vision together and all of those kinds of things.
Which is investment too.
Yeah. And so all of that's a great investment. Buying courses that you never actually watch, not a great investment.
Not a great
done plenty of that.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's right. I've done plenty of that. Best intentions at the time, but sometimes it's that one-on-one coaching or that accountability coaching that actually makes all the difference for helping. You think you can't afford it, but you actually can't afford not to invest in yourself.
Yeah, good one. Last question for you today, and curious to hear what you might say with this one today. Why do you love being a business owner?
Oh, why do I love being a business owner? Oh, listen, I could probably give you the standard answer, which it gives me the flexibility in life, to do the things with my kids and, to flex off early if I need to, but obviously there's, it's not a 9 to 5. It's like, sometimes it's 4 a.m. in the morning, or 10 o'clock at night to 2 a.m. in the morning when you get a brain spark or whatever else. So it's not like I'm just like flexing off. I'm just making up for the hours that I spent outside of normal work time. I could say that it's the lifestyle, but I actually honestly I just really enjoy it. I actually really like the work, to be honest.
You are an entrepreneurial ideas kind of personality.
I love taking an idea and being able to, build something and make it happen. I love patterns. Like, I love looking at the data and seeing what's working and what's not working, and being able to see how, like, I can shift something from here to here by just really understanding my business well. So I actually really just love it. I remember, like, I get my I've been doing a little bit of coaching for one of your courses for a few years, and I have to say that I just love that kind of thing, because I love hearing what other business owners are doing in their business and seeing patterns that might help them to project their business forward and all of those kinds of things.
It's seeing different patterns, but it's also taking disparate ideas and coming up with something new and a pathway to achieve that new thing or that new vision. You are really good at that.
Yeah. So, like, I probably have to say that it's definitely like the visionary stuff that really, these days is what sparks my drive. And people say, oh, what kind of hobbies do you have? And I'm like, like reading books, like watching Netflix, like walking on the beach, but I actually really like working. And they're like, what are you talking about? I actually really like working. I really like my staff. I really like, working with the marketing team that we have, and I love coaching, and I love, I love seeing things come together.
Conversations too all the time about different ideas and projects, and what do you think about this? And doesn't feel like work, really, does it?
No, it's like this big, like, I can be having this everyday conversation with someone, then we spark onto something about business, and so I do it with you. There's a friend of mine who's actually got a baby product business that next door to us here at the warehouse, and I'll drop in for 5 minutes, to pick up something that we're collaborating on or whatever else, and 2 hours later I'll leave there. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, did I just waste 2 hours? I'm like, no, I didn't waste 2 hours. We actually spent that time, like, our brains were developing new pathways, and we were coming up with great ideas for her business and my business, and how we could work together. And it actually, helped us to, kind of become better business owners and find a new way through, find a new pathway through, and all of those kinds of things. So I feel like I just kind of come alive. With that kind of stuff, like that, those kinds of conversations, I just fall in love with. And Catherine and I get on the phone And we're like, oh yeah, we just need half an hour. And like 3 hours later, we're still talking to each other about this. We have to make each other get off the phone because like it's just too fun to talk about that kind of thing and have somebody else who understands where you're at and what you're doing and all of that kind of stuff. So
I love it. I love it. I'm glad you went into that and not just and I know that you like, you appreciate and enjoy the flexibility as well, because that was very intentional for you.
Yeah.
As a mum as well. So, but yeah, that's not the only thing. So I love that. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times you are one of the coaches in our e-commerce marketing program, the Productpreneur Academy, which is awesome, and all of that, benefit from having you as a coach in there. But you're also doing some one-on-one stuff as well. So do you want to tell our listeners what you're doing, who it's best for, and how would they go about connecting with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose one of the things that I've noticed in the sector is like a lot of the information that's around there on running businesses is aimed at service-based businesses, and some of the times it's male focused or it's service focused, and so I just really want to help people to become the business owner that their business needs in order to grow and in order for them to achieve their goals for themselves and for their business. And so I think there's brilliant people like Kath and her team that are doing, the marketing coaching that is around, but there's a real gap on the operational side of things. And so like I do have a marketing background, but I have an accounting background as well. And our operational background obviously has been improved over the last 12 years. And I just love to, get my hands on some beautiful business owners who are struggling just to try and make that operational and marketing side of things work, because you can get some great momentum going with your business, but then you're not getting the pick and pack done, on time, or you're running out of stock all the time, or your cash flows all over the place. So you've got all of this stock, but you don't have any of this stock that's selling. And so just really being able to dig in with some business owners and just see the patterns in their business of what's making the money and how we can help them to make, to do more of what's making the money and less of what's not making the money, and just really identify some key points that would help to really project them forward in their business. Because just like I've said, that the things that have projected me forward in business over the years is having someone who's been there before me, be able to kind of go, hey, if you just did this, and I've grabbed onto that idea, and it's actually, I'm like, that is the best money I ever spent paying that person to coach me, because I might have spent, X number of dollars there, but I've made all of this money as a result of that one conversation that we had about something. And then obviously all the other little conversations as well, and the coursework and all of those things that coaches have. But I just want to, be another resource to product-based business owners to really help them identify how their business can go to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And so where should we send people to come find you for that?
Yeah. So boutiquebrands.com.au, I'm going to put a menu tab that's called coaching. And so if you go to boutiquebrands.com.au and click on coaching on the menu bar, that will get you there.
That'll be awesome. So we'll link to that from the podcast show notes page as well. So anyone from our listener base, if you want to go find Christy, head on over there.
Awesome. So good.
Thank you so much for jumping on with me today. It's been such a good conversation, and I've been really so happy to see you come out the other side of a really tough situation this year. And I know that you're going to be kicking some more amazing big goals yourself over the next, who knows how long you're going to be in business, but a long time.
I've still got another 20, I'm sure, at least. I think I've probably got 50. I've got 30 at least.
Be starting new businesses in our nursing homes one day, Christy.
Exactly.
I love it.
I'm sure there's a new market there.
Anyway. There no doubt will. Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me today.
Thanks, Kath.